Hello to everyone who is watching this video. I'm Zichen Hu. I'm the PhD researcher in Media Communications Department in London School of Economics and Political Science. My research project to be presented is China's dynamic data infrastructure in process, a genealogy of blockchain hype, and how it is intertwined with today's AI development and governance. So the scope of my research starts from the analysis of the blockchain technology's hype and problems, dilemmas with governance in China for two reasons. The first reason is that this technology is characterized with connotations for decentralization, free market, autonomous, and liberal imaginaries that feature the hype in contradiction with the high degree of political centralization in China. And the second reason is that there is an interesting and perplexing mismatch between the public, by which I mean the technology, journalism, and individual investors, and so on, and official discourse on and the prospects for blockchain business and industry. I investigate how the shifting governance paradigm of blockchain technologies in China forms through an interplay between the contestations on normative concepts related to blockchain's potential and the political economic conflicts of interest, particularly those related to the dynamics of fictitious capital and new ways of social organizations in decentralized autonomous organizations. And the second aspect of the scope of my research is the influx data infrastructure with components of blockchain and an AI, Internet of Things, and others added due to the need assumed to represent a maximized and public good. And this leads to an ongoing process of data infrastructuring, and the shifting governance paradigm of blockchain negotiated between the state and non-state actors can provide critical lessons for understanding and addressing the ongoing challenges associated with the AI surge and its governance, especially in terms of the constant struggle amongst the multiple stakeholders between the decentralizing agent and potential of emerging technologies and centralizing political power and the will of the state actors. And this is really interesting, and I believe it is important because China is now the second biggest source of AI talent and research output, yet the hype and appeal deserves more scrutiny. And I argue that the genealogy of how emerging technologies in China has been regulated and underpinned power dynamics offer critical insights for researchers to investigate possible future avenues for technology governance of China. And my conceptual framework is that the interactions afforded by blockchain technologies led to new imaginaries of the way public sphere forms, shaped by the contested normative values and political economic interests of different stakeholders. And the first research question is, to what extent do blockchain and decentralized platforms afford the formation of a public sphere and symbolize new patterns or paradigm of imaginaries of privacy, autonomy, power distribution, and social order? And the second research question is, how does the constant struggle amongst the multiple stakeholders between the decentralizing agent or potential of emerging technologies and centralizing political power sustain in today's AI hype and governance dilemma in China? And the method is to map discursive regions. By discourse, I mean a field of strategy, a space of struggle and contestation, meaning that it can be used for competing purposes or combined in incompatible ways. And I'll do multi-stakeholder discourse analysis to unpack the contesting accounts of justificatory logics of governing paradigms and imaginaries around privacy, security, fairness, and potential risks of emerging technologies, including blockchain technologies, and how that lends to new lessons for our understanding of AI development and governance. And by doing so, by doing the multi-stakeholder discourse analysis, I also aim to unpack the power relations between different institutions, between the private and public sectors. And the data is based on the state level government policy documents and technology journalism, where technology startups make their voices, and third-party consulting and law firms analysis reports. And the data repository is still expanding given the new field of study. And the next step in terms of the method design and operationalization will be analyzing the congruence or conflict networks at the topical level and longitudinal versions of discourse networks with visualization. And my originality and contribution of the research is can be summarized in four aspects. The first is that my research aims to unpack how industries and regulatory authorities bargain and negotiate, which is underpinned by different ways of conceptualizing public good and constitutes the shifting blockchain governance frameworks in China. And the second aspect of the contribution is that my research situates the governance of emerging digital technologies in genealogies by delineating the complex institutional and cross-sector interaction of transformations and power dynamics. And third, my research unveils China's understudied yet much problematized newly emergent AI hype. Will the state's fear of public blockchain hinder large model development, and will the AI future be one with autonomy as envisioned by fintech investors and developers? And finally, my study contributes to geopolitical scrutiny for China-US tech rivalry with a better understanding of China's ideological fragmentation across sectors and regions in its technology governance. And the first epoch of the blockchain hype in China starts from 2011. This is a critical year because before 2012, grassroots agency was a prominent feature of China's civil sphere formed on the internet. And scholars were relatively more optimistic that a participatory society will likely to be established in China. And at that time, Bitcoin and blockchain emerged in China as a new symbol for decentralization and participatory sociality enabled by ICTs. On June 9, 2011, Bitcoin China (BTCC) was established in Shanghai. This is China's first blockchain trading platform and once became the largest Bitcoin trading platform in the country. And in 2015, the Wanxiang Blockchain Labs hosted the first global blockchain summit in Shanghai, significantly promoting the concept of blockchain in China, at least to fintech investors. And there was a discourse surrounding the blockchain-based crypto networks, which is the concept of the super individual that came to assume a heightened heft and significance. Introduced by the career consultants, this popular concept referred to individuals who fully leverage online resources and personal influence to be entrepreneurs, to be successful, to be efficient, typically exemplifying internet celebrities, such as million-follower content creators in various fields. In the industry's discourse, the next generation of such super individuals refer to those who harness advanced means of production, i.e. AI, and relations of production, by which it mainly refers to blockchain. And such individuals are considered to have productive capacities that surpass those of traditional small to medium-sized enterprises. And China's industry discourse of the super individuality in the context of the blockchain hype to some extent echoes Isaiah Berlin's idea of positive liberties, where one is able to govern oneself in private lives and share in the governance of public lives and thrive on autonomy, the opportunity for self-creation and self-governance. This understanding of autonomy and individuality leads to the belief that the curtailed yet existing public sphere coalesced around crypto and DAOs is connected to the possibilities for structural, economic, and political changes. People with high level of financial, informational, and political literacy as investors, brokers, political dissents in China climbed over the great internet firewall and other institutional and legal barriers, turning to seductive venues to seek either wealth or implement utopian autonomous social organizations. The intense cultural, political, financial activities that take place in and around the crypto sphere testifies a new ethos of contemporary digital culture. And China's government joined the blockchain hype with policy packages several years after. This is exemplified by the action from the State Council in December 2016 and the white paper on blockchain technology application development in China led by the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology published in 2016 and People's Bank of China's participation in June 2017, etc. However, it is noteworthy that China or the state's focus of blockchain technologies is not exogenous to, but deeply implicated in the fabric of governance. And the second epoch of the blockchain hype is marked by the year 2018, when the domestic market's prospect for blockchain became more dim and more pessimistic because of the reduced profitability and high operational costs and many with the legal issues as listed in this slide. And one significant shift happening during this time period is the shift of the blockchain industry center from Shanghai to Beijing. It is noteworthy that blockchain companies in China had to largely rely on the state government as their biggest client and founder. And what was followed was the shutdown of China's first blockchain industrial park, the Shanghai Zhihui Industrial Park Sky Blockchain Incubation Base, due to the state's allegation of operating as an illegal coin speculation business. And Shanghai's position in blockchain industry was weakened by the state's lack of investment and supportive policy package, thus taken over by Beijing, China's capital city and political center. As China's financial center and the testing ground for reform and opening up, Shanghai boasts the best financial infrastructure in the country and has consistently taken the lead in financial and economic pilot programs. However, the context of ideological fragmentation and federalism in China implies how the state might perceive and set the boundary for the R&D of blockchain for its political trajectory. So what is the political trajectory by the Chinese state exactly? We can find clues from the state's persistent optimism during that period, despite pessimism and the most authentic feedback from the market. So in the domestic sphere, blockchain was mainly applied in poverty alleviation by being incorporated in the e-government system for social welfare and subsidized distributions. And the hype, the state optimism was especially marked by PRC's President Xi Jinping's statement that China must regard blockchain as an important breakthrough for independent innovation of core technologies in October 2019. And this was followed immediately, several days after, by a collective study and training session of Chinese Communist Party's Politburo that took place to aim at opening up the imagination for the development and application of blockchain. And internationally, since then, China has been quietly building a platform that aims to facilitate the deployment of blockchain technology for enterprises. It is called Blockchain-Based Service Network, an ambitious project initiated by state-run organizations and is aimed at providing a global infrastructure to help businesses and individuals develop blockchain applications as easily as setting up a website. This international version of the platform will be open source, allowing participants in the public domain to inspect the code for any potential backdoors. Chinese blockchain companies also have placed a lot of emphasis on international expansion, a move supported by Beijing in the concept of global tech battle with the US. Compared to artificial intelligence, 5G networks, quantum computing, and semiconductors. In the ongoing tech Cold War between China and the US, the development of blockchain has not received the same kind of geopolitical scrutiny. One of the many possible reasons why China is so enthusiastic in blockchain, despite the negative feedback from the market, is that blockchain isn't a technology or capability that is uniquely associated with the US, or that the US is perceived to have a lead in. The US government has no federal policy on blockchain technology, nor has the former President Donald Trump publicly espoused its importance as China's President Xi Jinping did. And from 2023, the third epoch of the blockchain started, marked by the new hype of AI. By that time, private sectors in China started to seize AI as an opportunity or like the last straw for blockchain businesses, and framing blockchain as a powerful mechanism that works in tandem with AI is a strategy to mobilize more resources and funding from the state. Not only is this a rhetorical device for survival, but also it is a response to the practical problems exhibited in the AI hype. For example, when the AI black box encounters interpretability issues, a traceable machine decision process can provide a clear path for AI, enhancing the credibility of its models. And to commercialize AI against the extremely high cost of training large language models, situational adaptation of the model and interoperability amongst the models are needed and can be realized through blockchain technologies. And China's fintech investor and developer community's vision of an AI future is one with autonomy. But is that the same for the state actors? Maybe no. From 2023 onwards, the state's optimism and the whole of a government approach to blockchain and the Web3 vision seems to have calmed down. Although blockchain is still part of the state's vital national technology R&D strategies, and there are recent cases that indicate how the state aims to utilize blockchain with other emerging technologies, including AI, in examples like China's smart court to render judgment. However, the blockchain has been associated with more and more negative connotations in the official discourse. For example, public blockchain was associated with crime and even espionage activities by the Ministry of National Security in 2024, very recently. And the range of blockchain applications is further limited in official documents in the areas including the construction of an industry credit chain, internal risk management, business bidding, and external financial services, which are all based on consortium blockchain. That is a semi-private blockchain that only allow a very limited number of participants, usually the regulatory authorities, to have access. So rather than a really public one, despite the challenges recognized by the state of the financial sustainability of consortiums of blockchain applications. So to summarize a little bit, the private sector's vision for the future seems to more closely align with the blockchain's technologies and its connotation for decentralization, openness, and transparency. And the government's vision for the future seems to more closely align with the connotations or imaginaries in relation to AI, like a centralized, mostly closed and black box decision-making process. And can there be a possible way to organically integrate the two in governance? Well, the history might have an answer for us. And that's why I'm supplementing the previous analysis with a genealogical perspective that helps the excavation of the concepts of autonomy, privacy, liberal democracy, and trust underpinning China's digital technology governance to help us better understand the trajectories and imaginaries of emerging technology do not maintain the same or develop linearly, but instead they develop discursively with contingencies. So the fear that the decentralized internet might become somehow centralized date back to its early days to the last century. Tim Berners-Lee in 1999, among other founding figures of the Internet, expressed concern about the domain name system, DNS, which is a semi-decentralized federation overseen centrally by the then quasi-governmental, now non-governmental organization ICANN. He referred to DNS as a centralized Achilles heel by which it can all be brought down or controlled. Yet years after, this structurally centralized feature of the Internet represents a source of trouble. One of the most famous examples is China's Great Internet Firewall. And one important component of that is made of the liar DNS servers and DNS hijackers returning incorrect IP addresses. DNS queries do not reach the DNS server, but if the request matches a banned keyword defined by the state, then the firewall will inject a fake DNS reply before the legitimate DNS reply arrives. And many of these fake responses contain public IP addresses of the US companies, and then the list is rapidly expanding for years, for decades. And this sets a prominent example of how the PRC governs the disruptive emerging technologies with a decentralization and participatory potential. And interestingly, another example is blockchain's precedent, P2P, because blockchain technology is developed from the P2P technology, inheriting the decentralized characteristics of P2P and adding immutability to transactions and records. And this started from 2015, when the former Premier Li Keqiang and former Governor of China's central bank, Zhou Xiaochuan, both publicly endorsed P2P as a way to develop into businesses. And the pervasive guarantees throughout China's financial system desensitized many investors to risk. Close relationships between P2P companies and local governments suggested state support, and the P2P advertising often emphasized links to the state or state-owned companies. So this led to huge scams, money lost, and ongoing protests by the investors who were failed by the state promises and technology hype. And this is also a stain on the former Prime Minister Li Keqiang's political career. And what has been sustained in the previous rounds and rounds of hypes, technology hypes, is the contestation between the private sector's aim to maximize the decentralization potential of the disruptive emerging technologies and aim to further make the power concentration by the state. Well, AI today seems the perfect vehicle for the state's purposes for power centralization, but it is also faced with several challenges. For example, the exponential increase in model costs for training AI, and AI companies facing severe diminishing marginal returns on investments. And this is echoed by the statement by Sam Altman from OpenAI that the era of large model has almost reached its end. Admittedly, blockchain technologies might offer a viable solution for the AI's dilemma by enabling the situational adaptation of model to better commercialize AI. However, China, the state's very cautious approach to blockchain, underpinned by normative values and political economic interest, makes the future of AI in China with this regard a lingering question. So my conclusion is that China's data infrastructure is very much in flux, with many different components being added or removed based on the assumed needs that represent a so-called maximized public good, and leading to an ongoing process of data infrastructuring that involves different stakeholders who propose different normative values and regulatory approaches to blockchain technologies through which social action and social order take place. And the dynamic and erratic process of blockchain technologies in China helps understand the current AI hype by highlighting first the constant struggle between the decentralizing agent and potential of emergent technologies and centralizing political power, and second, the need to move the research field forward by situating the studies of digital technology governance in its situated genealogy.